Greetings, everyone. This is Ohio Dan. I wanted to discuss a general concept that I think may have some value, and I wanted to share it with anybody else that may think that it's a good idea. And that is the idea of avoiding overextending yourself by rationing the mental and emotional energy you're willing to apply toward the various people and situations in your life, in a way that is similar to how you learn to ration time, right? You learn to manage your time by not devoting too much time toward specific things that are either optional or they have less value, or maybe you can't really make something good of that time trying to help a particular person or whatnot. You learn the value of your time, and I think in a similar way, it's beneficial to learn how to apply your mental and emotional energy toward people and things that have the most value. Most things that you may encounter are not necessarily worth the full investment of your substance and energy, in other words. They're not necessarily worth your full effort. They're not necessarily worth your emotional investment into those things. In fact, the people who play no worthwhile role in your life and the things that you can't have any positive effect upon shouldn't take up any of your time and energy at all. You do what you have to do to get by, right? I realize that people have to work long hours. I realize that people may have certain family members that they love and care about, but maybe those family members are in ill health. And that's going to take up a lot of your time to try to do what you can for those people. I'm going to get to that in a minute here when it comes to valuing your energy with just a few things sometimes. But you should still keep in mind, what is it that you're trying to accomplish here? Is it really worth investing in this person in a relationship? Is it really worth investing in a family member that doesn't treat you like family? Right? It's similar to what I've talked about with making your life into a meritocracy based on the people and the things that you allow into your life. The difference here is I'm focusing on your mental and emotional investment with that, but it's a very similar theme in that you ration the mental and emotional energy that you put into things so that you don't become overwhelmed. Because if you dedicate everything that you are toward anything that you can, you're going to be exhausted. You're going to be overextended. You're going to not be invested in the things that actually do matter the most. And frankly, your health is going to suffer for it. You're just going to end up not being able to invest in much of anything, and your mental and emotional health is going to decline over time. Right? Your primary investment should always go toward the people and things of direct value to you. And I don't mean that in terms of monetary value. That could play some factor into this, but that's not primarily what I'm talking about. I mean the people and the things that matter based on the criteria that you've set forth, based on what's important to you. The people that you actually have those healthy, reciprocal, mutually beneficial relationships with, and those things that you actually truly find value in and that provide a sense of purpose to you. Those are the things that you should be focused on. Any surplus energy that you may have can go into optional situations that also have merit, the things that may be a little bit less necessary for you to sustain yourself, but that you find value in. If you have surplus time and energy, you can apply that, allocate that to those types of activities and people. But overall, you should be aware of rationing your energy on that basis, rationing what you're actually invested in, other things you may not really invest in. And it's different than time because you may not put as much emotional and mental energy into something compared to the amount of time that you spend on that activity. For example, if you work a job that really is not fulfilling at all and you're doing it just to get by, and maybe the pay is not even that great and the benefits are not even that great, you basically do what you have to do to keep that job for as long as you can continue doing that, as long as it makes sense because it's providing funding or it's providing resources for what you need. But really, you kind of give minimal effort. And you see people learning this in today's work environment, right? You don't necessarily want to do more than what's expected of you, because then people just expect even more from you, and then it balloons into this out of control thing. I'm not saying it should be this way. I'm not saying that's a good position to be in, but being able to ration how invested you really are in the time that you're at work versus really, being there and putting your time into it, but not giving it 100% because it doesn't pay off to do that. And again, you'll just end up mentally and emotionally exhausted if you put yourself in that situation. I think it's important to be aware of that. Ideally, you'd want to have a job where you can be 100% invested at work, where it is something you're motivated to do. It's something that gives you a sense of fulfillment. But in a lot of cases, that idealism kind of falls apart. And I realize that. And this could be true for family functions. This could be true for friends as well, where it's like, yeah, I care about this person, but this person has kind of fucked up their life too. And there's really no responsibility on my end for that. So I may still be friends to some extent with this person, or if they're family, you may consider them family still. Maybe you're not going to fully invest in that person anymore because it's really not a healthy situation. It's not, oh, this person's always been there for me and now they have Alzheimer's, so I'm just not going to be in their life anymore because there's nothing I can do. Maybe there is nothing you can do, but usually there's something that you could do still for that person. But you've got to be aware of your emotional rationing, right? You may want to be there for that person, but at the same time, and this kind of fits hand in glove with stoicism, maybe there's not a whole lot you can do. And so rather than being emotionally all over the place about that situation, you just kind of limit your investment. Not because you don't care about that person, but because that might be the wiser thing to do if there's not necessarily something you can do for them. Or if it's an ailing parent or something like that, and you can live with them and help them out on a daily basis, maybe you do dedicate a lot of your time and mental and emotional energy both into that situation. But you've got to be cognizant of how you're rationing your mental and emotional energy, just like with your time. Right? You've got to be aware of why you're doing what you're doing and not being so overwhelmed. There may be something else that you find value in, but you just don't have the energy to do it. You just don't have the energy to work a difficult job, help take care of someone, and then also have your friendship circle be as important as it once was. Maybe you have to let some things kind of fall on the back burner rather than just overwhelm yourself with a whole bunch of everything. I've learned that that's really important for me. It's something that it's a trap that I can fall into if I'm not rationing my mental and emotional investment into only the people and the things that it makes sense for me to invest in at that given point in time, and to the extent that it makes sense to invest in those people or those activities. On certain occasions, as I've suggested, one or two activities may need to take up your entire focus and effort. Again, it could be a job and a family member, or if you have kids, a job and your kids. I'm not saying that you as an individual aren't important, and I'm not saying you shouldn't look after yourself. You should do that as well, but you just may not realistically have the energy to invest in a bunch of the other stuff that's more optional or that may be important to you, but you're just overextending yourself too much if you put a lot of energy into that at that time. And life changes, right? You'll have seasons where you can focus more on yourself, and this is where kind of a going your own way type of thinking can lead to having more free emotional energy or mental energy where you can focus on the things that are important to you because you're not going to be stuck in a family situation. Sure, you could have a negative employment situation, but overall you may be more able to get out of that because you don't have people relying on you and so on and so forth. You're not trying to keep up with the Joneses because you realize that that's just another pitfall in terms of materialistic values and all that. You're probably in a better position to focus your mental and emotional energy on the things that should be important, but we're all going to have seasons in life where we are limited to just a few things, and the other stuff has got to kind of be put on the back burner for a while. That can happen as well, but being cognizant of not overextending yourself, I think, is the most important thing here. Ultimately, it's important to realize that your pool of energy is always finite, regardless of what you're trying to accomplish in life at a certain stage. And so you've got to allocate and ration that energy in a way that you think is best. It is therefore advisable to practice rationing your emotional energy while considering what is truly or is not truly worth your time and investment in a given situation. And again, if you have a job where it's not fulfilling, it's not going to lead to anything better, it seems, maybe you scale back some of the mental energy and emotional energy you put into that. You don't care as much. Maybe you care enough, of course, to continue to have that job, but maybe that's the limit of it. And it's hard to give specific advice on where exactly you should go with that, right? I know it's very easy to want to give everything you can to anything that you do, but sometimes that's not the best tactic. Sometimes that, again, will lead to you being overwhelmed and overextending yourself. So I just wanted to put this out there as sort of another Life 101 thing that I've learned over time, issue or topic to discuss, where it is important to ration how you apply your mental and emotional energy, what it is that you care about, what it is that you're not going to care about at a given point in time, looking after your own mental and emotional health, and not overwhelming yourself with things that you may not even be able to do a whole lot about, and focusing on where your energy should be. Again, I think Stoicism melds well with this because you can more easily distance yourself from the things that you can't control and focus on what is appropriate for you instead, whether it is your job or a family member or your friend or whatever the case may be, or even just yourself if you have surplus energy into your own hobbies, into your own interests. But be cognizant of not overwhelming yourself, overextending yourself with your finite pool of energy that you have to put into things. And just like with your time, I find it to be important to ration your mental and emotional energy so that you don't end up having your mental and emotional health suffer, or at least you're less likely to have that effect. And instead you focus on what's actually important to you at a given point in time, at a given season in life. And the other stuff that's not as important, the people that you can't necessarily forge healthy relationships with, in some cases it's best not to put any energy into those situations and those people at all, and to ration your emotional energy accordingly and your mental focus accordingly based on what is actually most important at that stage of your life, or with what it is that you're doing even on a particular day in some cases. You focus your energy and your effort on those things, and you're cognizant of not allowing yourself to waste your energy, to waste your investment on the things that are not as positive or that you can't really make a difference in either way, because that will overwhelm you. And I think it's important to guard against that.